Hello, I want to talk about the dangers of a single story, the dangers of having only one's perspective in regards to history and, in my case, social justice. The lack of information can shift a person's perspective on things if that is how they choose to limit their worldview. If they only take information from one source, that's the single story they have, then that becomes their gospel. That is the routine fundamentals of that knowledge that they have, and that becomes their core. And it's something, and it's hard to mold it when that's all they know. So you need to get those multiple perspectives, get multiple sources on different topics. Taking, for instance, think of some names in black activism, in social justice, civil rights. You got Martin Luther King, Frederick Douglass, Rosa Parks, Malcolm X. And then it starts like really straining on. You need to pull back from some history classes and catch some other names there. But there's still people missing. There's information lacking on important figures in history. Some people that just aren't even acknowledged, honestly, in history books and in regards to social movements like this. And I want to focus on two people whose contributions to social justice are often overlooked in this manner. Social justice is this fight against oppression, against discrimination, in trying to achieve equality for all and make sure that everyone is treated as human beings, having those human rights. And these people that are commonly showcased as the uh, figureheads, the ones that I've mentioned, Martin, he has his I Have a Dream speech, the government suppression, the incarceration, and pretty much being the face of black activism. These people are good stories, and that's something that history likes, keeping a consistent good story and pushing that out as the truth, and that's all there ever was. Take Frederick Douglass, an escaped slave, taught himself to read, a great orator. He's the most photographed man of the 1800s. That's a beautiful story. You love that. Rosa Parks, the symbol of the rebellion, of just being fed up and not needing any more. And she is the face of female black activism, really. And then there's the flip side of all this positivity and working for change, and that's Malcolm X and his bluntness and unashamedness of promoting his community and working to empower. But it angered the wrong people. It touched a little too sensitive topics, and it got villainized, and he became the flip side of the coin. You got the positive. You got Martin, and you love him. Push him as hard as you can, and you flip it. And then there's Malcolm. It's like, yeah, he did good, but not the right way. And there's the uh, contentious nature of righting wrong kinds of activism. And the people that often get overlooked, these are all people that I mentioned Martin, Frederick, Rosa, Malcolm, have all primarily worked on their lonesome or came in and then uplifted other groups. In like in Frederick's case with women's suffrage movement, um, but there are people that are collaborate with other activists and working to promote uh, the black community, and they get lost in the shuffle some. Take EWL's W.E.B. Du Bois, founded NAACP, but there's more people, and they just don't get brought up as much. Mary Church Terrell is not mentioned often amongst those people. The Bethune Cookman University was the creation of the merging of Mary McLeod's Bethune's Training Institute and the Cookman Institute, and this college was born. And I want to go on and highlight those two women, Mary Church Terrell and Mary McLeod Bethune, and give some insight into their accomplishments. Mary Church Terrell, excuse me, worked with E.W. Wells and helped organize anti-lynching campaigns. A close friend of hers was lynched, and that really sparked her activism. In 1904, she was the only African American woman invited to speak at the Congress of Women in Berlin. That Congress meeting was held in San Francisco in 1904, and she became one of the charter members of the NAACP. She spoke on behalf of the women's suffrage movement in picketing outside of the White House during Woodrow Wilson's tenure. And then in her later age, in the 80s, she joined attempts to stop segregation. And in 1953, uh, that decision that segregation was unconstitutional was made, thanks in part to this attempt. And Mary McLeod Bethune, in 1922, while working at her boarding school, the KKK marched against her school. This act was meant to deter black people from voting, but Bethune and 100 other individuals showed up to the Daytona polls and voted anyway. And then, after I said before, her institution's merger with the Cookman Institute, uh, it created the Bethune-Cookman College, which is still present today and was accredited as a four-year liberal arts college. And the school helped educate black youth during this time period where they had often been left behind. And after working on this level for some time, she went on to seek a larger national platform. She helped FDR's Council on Negro Affairs, and with her close relation to the president and his wife, she saw eye to eye with Eleanor Roosevelt on many civil rights and women's issues. And in 1945, she pushed her to acquire a seat at the UN Charter to solidify their commitment to civil rights and human rights without discrimination in regards to sex, gender, age, and this is just a couple of the acts that she helped perform. And uh, we wouldn't really be the same without these two women and their contributions to society and our culture as we know it. And this is just goes to show that the popular faces are just that. They're faces that are meant to be known. They're meant to be shown as the go-to option. You have your Martin, yep, and you're good, and that's it. But what about the Mary McLeods? What about the Mary Churches? The people that do the dirty work, go into the trenches and start uh, working from the ground up, working to encourage people to vote, working to picket uh, outside of legislation. This is what gets overlooked in regards to history, and history is all about who tells the story, but these people get overlooked for a reason, and it's something that I hoped I highlighted a little bit on within this video. Thank you.